Hey, everybody. I have Trent Bray with us, who is first and foremost a husband of 13 years, a father of three amazing children. I feel like that's enough. Okay. That's a lot. But he's also a lifelong entrepreneur who started at the age of 14 doing web design. So currently his ventures include a brand called Hustle Energy, hence the topic of today, embracing the hustle. And he also runs a habit building group called Hustle Habits with the accompanying podcast, which I'm sure we'll talk about because I just was on it. He also remodels and sells homes. So there's this idea of, well, what does the hustle mean to Trent? What is it? What does it? Where does it, like? Where should we spend our time for our professional career? Where should we make money? And then also, how do you? I'm really curious how we balance this as family and such at the same time. So welcome, Trent. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Ben. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yeah. So, okay. What does hustle mean to you? I have to start with that because for me, when I hear the word hustle, I'm like, okay, crush it. Gary Vee, he's on a podium, he's yelling at
Yeah.
everyone. If you're not grinding, somebody else is grinding. Like also when I was a soccer player, when I was a professional, when I wanted to be a professional soccer player, I used to live by this quote: "When you're not practicing, somebody else is." And
Yep.
so I had this 5 a.m. practice, mid-afternoon practice, evening practice. I'm in bed, I'm imagining practicing.
Yep.
And man, that was tough. That was exhausting. So I'm not sure if that's how you define hustle, but I would love to know how you define hustle.
Well, I appreciate that having that turned on me because with my podcast, I typically ask people, what is it? What does hustle mean to you? What's your own personal definition of it? And there's a common thread, and that is to give it your all while you're working on it. But that doesn't mean you have to be doing it 24/7, 365. Like when I am with my kids, and granted, I'm not perfect at this. I still need to work at, but it's like when I'm with my kids, I am with my kids. I'm not trying to jump between things. When I'm working, I am working. Like I need to be at it 100%, not worried about what's going on in the news, not worried about what's on YouTube. It's you've got to be intentional and after it while you have that time scheduled. So for me, I've got to have that time scheduled to do that so that I can have that time scheduled for family as well.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is there's this, like, I get a lot done because I'm super present when I am getting that stuff done. And, my question to that is, how do you turn off? Like, how do you spend time with your family and only think about your family? And how do you, when you're focusing on one business venture and get pinged in another business venture, how do you, what are your boundaries and what's your process there?
Yeah, so you mentioned the Hustle Habits group, and that's talking about building and establishing those habits because that is really what it comes down to. You've got to be able to make it a habit, and it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of practice. For a long time, what I did is I had two separate cell phones, like paid for two separate plans, so that I would have work on one phone, and I would lock it in my office when I went to be with my family. And unfortunately, it's kind of blurred the lines again over this time. But it takes practice of okay, I am going to my family with the last 5-10 minutes of work, whatever it takes. I've got to unwind. I've got to be able to get myself in the mind frame where I can be present with them again rather than work up to the last second and then try and switch because that usually doesn't go as well because you're still divided between the two.
Now, what's so bad about thinking about work when you're, on a romantic date with your partner or when you're playing with your kids? Like, because, devil's advocate here, like if I enjoy work, I'm passionate about work. What's so bad about that?
That's a great question, and you know what? I can't say I'm 100% present all the time, and things do pop up in my head. But as soon as I had kids, I noticed that they noticed when I wasn't present. And to be honest with you, kids, they don't want stuff. They want your undivided attention. And my kids will call me out on it. They'll be like, "Dad, get off your phone. Like we're playing right now. This is what we're doing." And so there are times where it's like, if they're off, playing on the playground or something, and I have an idea pop up for work, I'll go write it down real quick. But it's really about saying the intentions. Are you there for your kids, or are you there for your business? What are you there for? And that's what you should be focusing on.
Okay, what I'm hearing is, and so I'm going to use the word work, even though a lot of people don't like the word work. I think, let's make the word work have positive connotations right now. I'm hearing like I have family work, I have business work. It has many categories that I have for that. I maybe have like housework, I have relationship work. And so if I'm hustling, I am 100%. I know how much time I need for each category. I know what my priorities are for each category. And I am 100% present when I am working in each category. That's kind of what I'm hearing from what you're saying.
Yeah, at least the intention is to be 100% present. Like I said, I'm not perfect at that, but
Yeah, I could throw my phone out the window. It's like how to turn it. I've honestly, one of the greatest things is deleting social media apps. I feel like it's all of a sudden now you have all this free time from just pulling up something randomly and scrolling, and it's like all of a sudden you can take that energy and put it somewhere else. I don't know if that's something you ever do, but that's been really helpful personally. Okay, so I'm hustling. I have a hustle mentality. I'm intentionally trying to be present in each category.
Mhm.
That's wonderful. I want to like put a pin in that, and I want to learn a little bit more about you for a second. So how did the Trent with hustle come to be today?
Yeah, that's a great question. It goes back to, like you mentioned in the intro, of when I was 14. My parents were both entrepreneurs. I got to see some of the aspects of what they were doing, but at the same time, I'm the youngest in my family, so I saw them at their most successful. I saw them, being able to take a vacation and everything. The machine keeps working, and so to me, honestly, I thought it was pretty easy. I hit the right thing at the right time. I was really interested in web development, but being 14, I didn't have a car. At the time, there was no YouTube to learn these things. So what I did is I ended up pulling up websites. I did right click, view source code, and reverse engineered how to build a website. And back in the day, it was HTML, so it wasn't extremely difficult to learn. I put some time into it, started building websites for people, turned it into a business that was fairly successful for a 14-year-old. Parlayed that into vending machines, which was pretty passive. Ended up starting an automotive parts distribution company, and this is all going through high school, and was fairly successful. So I just kind of hit the right things at the right time. I'm like, oh, this is easy. If something isn't working, then I just jump to the next thing, if it's not an instant success. And so, as it happens, I got served a lot of humble pie. It was something that I started several things. They weren't instantly successful, and I shoved them to the side. And over time, I realized the power of building those habits and sticking with something and being persistent with it. So I ended up working, retail jobs, and did property management for a while, and car sales, and everything you can think of, where it was like I just was trying to do anything. And it wasn't until probably about 7 years ago that entrepreneurial spirit really started to eat at me, where it's like, okay, you've got to do something. I was in a 9 to 5 that I hated, and I was working on, things at the end of the day, but it's like, I've got a wife, I've got kids, I've got all these obligations that I need to do, or that I need to take care of. And then at the end of the day, it's like, I really still have that desire to work on what I want to do. But at the same time, it would get to the point where it's like, all right, I don't have the energy, I don't have the focus. I need to either have a Red Bull and be up all night and get terrible sleep and throw off the next day, or I need something else.
What was the thing then? Because it sounds like you're hustling, but you're not hustling with anything that you care about or hustling in any specific direction. What was the thing, if I was to ask that old you at that time, okay, like what is your dream career? Like, okay, drop all the limitations. Like, what is it that you want to create right now?
So what I want to do is to be able to help other people make an impact, specifically through entrepreneurship. So when I was in the 9 to 5 jobs, I realized, all I'm doing is I'm furthering someone else's career. And you know what? Regular jobs, career paths are great for a lot of people. For me, it wasn't fulfilling. To me, I just saw, hey, I'm just helping Ben get better at his job. That's all I'm doing. And so it
That's what I
was
hired you for. You've got to
right.
help me get better at my job. But no, I feel you there, and I like what you threw out on the table. It's working for an organization is helping that organization achieve their goals.
Right.
And if you don't basically stand up and say, I'm going to use this position to help me achieve my goals, then you're going to be lost in the raging rapids of that organization's, design for you.
Right.
And so unless you stand up and say, I'm going to hustle for myself instead of hustle for this company, then like you're never actually going to create that vision, that dream that you have for yourself.
Right. And I mean, it's so great to be able to, through entrepreneurship, you can see that impact that you're making directly to somebody else. Whereas in an organization that gets lost. You may be impacting people and be creating a better world, but you don't necessarily see that. And that's why I love entrepreneurship is I can sit there and say, okay, I know that I created a better impact, or I created an impact on Joe over there. It's
Joe
just
Schmo. Joe Schmo is now a better person. And you were going down the path of basically telling all our listeners about what you've created and what you launched. And because you're like, I had no energy, I was coming home exhausted, I didn't know what was meaningful, and I'm popping down these Red Bulls. Man, I was once drinking 4 extra large monsters a day. Like I think I had an addiction, to be honest. And so when you cut that, like that stuff's not good for you.
Right.
So, and it actually starts having like a negative effect where I'm drinking these energy drinks and I'm overdoing it, but I'm drinking them because I have a habit of drinking them, thinking that I'm going to feel better and get like a buzz from them. And then you become more anxious, you become more angry. And I remember once actually I qualified for this focus group on energy drinks. Mm-hmm. And during the screening questions, they were like, so do you ever feel agitated? Do you ever feel exhausted? Do you ever feel more stressed? And I was like, you're asking me this about energy drinks. I've never thought about that. Hold on a second. I thought they were supposed to do the opposite.
Right.
It's okay. So you were leading us, you're feeling this way, you're exhausted. What happened?
Yeah. So honestly, it was something that I had in the back of my mind. I couldn't find anything that was on the market at that point in time. And so I just kept it in the back of my head as an idea for a long time, probably about 4 years. And fortunately, I was able to leave that 9-to-5 environment, and I ended up getting into house flips. It was, somebody, right place, right time. I'm not particularly handy myself, but I had to learn just to get a hold of the process. But I was working on that for a little while, and I was able to establish a way to work myself out of that position and be a lot more hands-off with it, which is great, which allowed me the time to then refocus on what, hustle means to me and start working on the product side of things.
Okay, so you're working a 9-to-5, and all of a sudden you get asked to flip. So walk me through the journey of how you created your company as it is today, as well as these differing income streams.
Yeah, so it was one of those things that I put it out there that I was not happy, that I wasn't.
Like a billboard? Where was it a shirt? Like, was it secret notes passed in the marketplace?
It was all the above, I put the billboards at no, it was just talking to people of within my circle of, hey, look, I'm not fulfilled where I'm at. And another job isn't going to change that. I need something different. I need to scratch that entrepreneurial itch. And I ended up getting involved, I guess, before the house flips. I ended up getting involved in a video production company. And it was one of those things where it was my cousin-in-law that had this video production company, and he was looking for something else. And I'd done videography as a hobby for a while. It's kind of my side hustle. and I tend to be passionate about cars, and so it was an automotive based video side hustle. Anyway, he's like, hey, I need somebody to help me expand my business. I know you're into videography. Would you be interested? We had some conversations, and so I ended up partnering with him on his company. It turns out that we both wanted to do the same thing, which is one of those conversations before you partner with somebody, you need to have that conversation. Okay, what specifically do you want to do within the company? What are your strengths? And, we both wanted to do the same thing. So ultimately that partnership didn't work out over the long run, but no ill will towards him. But it was as this was winding down where it's like, okay, I need to find something else. I need something in the interim, and I had a couple of 9-to-5 jobs in there that were just kind of temporary until I found the next thing. But it's when people know what your intentions are, they're more willing to put those things out there and try to help you out with what you're trying to do. If you're trying to advance your career, you need to tell people that. You need to let them know, hey, I'm trying to get to the next level. What do you have in the way to help me do that? Because otherwise they may just pass you over because they think you're happy with where you are. And so by telling people, hey, I want something else, I need to be involved in something else, an opportunity was presented to me to partner on these house flips with somebody that was able to say, look, we need to be hands-on, we need to figure this out. And then when it gets to that point, we can start hiring people, which we did. And then a bunch of issues with that. And eventually was able to find somebody who was a good subcontractor or a good contractor rather, that could sub everything out and take a piece of the pie in doing that. And I found it to be reasonable. So it's been a good experience.
Okay, so it sounds like there are going to be a lot of bumps along the way.
Oh, yes.
But if you don't, if you're not honest with yourself, and then you're not honest with the people around you, opportunities aren't going to show up.
Yep.
And so communication is key, internal and external. But then it's, where does this, this entrepreneurial spirit for your own business come up? Because you've created almost this work environment that works for you now, where it's, I've transitioned, I've evolved, but I'm working towards something. Mm-hmm. So how did you figure out what you wanted to work towards? And what is it? Because you haven't even talked about it yet.
So that's a good question. I still think I'm figuring it out. And you know what? I think you're always going to be trying to become a better version of yourself. And it's not going to always... I personally, Gary Vee talks about it a lot, of even though he's kind of put a toxic idea behind the hustle culture, at the same time, he says, fall in love with the process. It's all about, becoming better and building something. That's what I love doing. But what I ended up creating was a powdered drink mix designed to help you focus, geared towards those entrepreneurs that were in my shoes 7 years ago, where they wanted that 9-to-5, or they wanted out of that 9-to-5 rather. And they had this idea, they wanted to execute on it, but they didn't have the focus. They didn't have the energy for it, but it doesn't have caffeine in it, so it doesn't keep you up all night. And like I said earlier, I want to impact other people through entrepreneurship. I want to help other people become entrepreneurs that have that desire. And being able to see other people make that impact is really what drives me. I love seeing other people create that impact. Even if it's not me winning, I love seeing other people win. And so by design, that's my win, is helping other people win.
And so you've talked about, so you've created an amazing podcast, and you've had a couple ventures, and now it's this idea of, well, how do we help others hustle? And you talked about the concept of, do you know, I guess, where to spend your time, where to hustle? And you've had a lot of, I'm going to invest my time here, and this is not actually, wait, no, hold on, I'm going to go invest my time here. And in my own hustle career, I've invested in the wrong things for way too long, to be honest. And so my cat's making some noise in the background. She's agreeing with me. She's been around for 10 years. And so she's like, Ben, you did invest in some things way too
Yeah.
long. But when I launched my supplement, I actually made an agreement with myself because I learned, hey, this is not in alignment with your values in terms of what you're trying to create long-term for your business. What is the boundary here? How much time do you want to invest? How much money do you want to invest? And you got to hold strong to when you hit whatever it is you want to hit, or what your limits are, your metrics are, that you're going to move forward or move back.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. And I think it was the first time in my entrepreneurial career that I did that. And do you have any advice for our listeners to when to recognize that they need to stop or they need to keep going? Because something you said too is you need to be consistent. And so how do you know when to do either?
Yeah. So it really comes down to why you're doing things. I mean, it's a cliche thing of, find your why. And that's really what drives me is, why am I doing this? Is it a bigger picture? Is it something I see the vision 20 years from now? Or am I chasing money? I mean, that's the thing. What a lot of entrepreneurs do is like, I want to go after this because I'm going to make money at it. If that's what you're chasing, forget it. Just drop whatever you're doing now. Yeah, you can make some money. But
about that real quick, because I think investors today are going to, it's like almost, I don't know how this is going to impact entrepreneurship, but I don't think it's going to do a good for it, because you have people jumping in like a cryptocurrency right now or something in this volatile market. They're making 500 to 1,000% gains in 24 hours, and building a business, man, 3 to 5 year minimum. And you might finally get profitable. Like, what's this gonna do? What are we gonna see in entrepreneurs? So I have to make a little side note.
No, I agree. Wouldn't don't want to go too far off into the weeds, but my investment strategy is much more akin to like somebody like Dan Fleischman, where it's just put a little bit in consistently over time, let it grow. I'm not the one to chase the trends as much, because you'll ride those highs, but you'll ride those lows. And what I really want to do is create something that's more sustainable. Now, some people do chase the money for a short amount of time that allows them to get to their why, their thing that really moves them. But you sometimes have to have those hard conversations with yourself of, okay, is this going to really fulfill me? Is this going to impact me over time? But like you said, you can't decide that in the first month of whatever you're doing. You can't decide that even really in the first year. Like you said, you've got to give it a 3 to 5 year minimum. I can't say that's 100% the case, but it really is something you have to put some time in to know, okay, is this going to work for me?
Yeah. And if you feel that it's not working for you, you don't have to wait that long. You could exit. I'm thinking of like a hustle meter, like this gauge. And okay, so you get a business idea, maybe you're working full time, and so you want to jump out and hopefully, pursue this business idea. So you need to increase the hustle meter a little bit, and you're working full time, so you need to actually probably increase it like maybe halfway, maybe a little bit more. You need to just to get going, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to turn it back a little bit, and I'm going to manage both and see if something's taking off. I'm going to do like once you get launched, it's almost like, what's the minimum amount of effort that I can put in to see the greatest return on my investment? And then if you start seeing return on your investment, and it's like, okay, maybe I turn it up now. I'm turning it back up. So let's see if I can catch this momentum or build more from it. And then if you are, then it's like, okay, maybe I can leave this other job, and maybe I can turn the hustle meter up all the way for a little bit to get ramped up now that I don't have this other income. And then it's, okay, I can scale back because that's not sustainable. Just like I have imagining this little turn dial on my chest of hustle. I think that's the next shirt you got to make, or a hat. It's a hustle meter.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that down.
I'll be your first customer. Let me know about it.
But I think for the idea, you at least get the first one free. So
I'm down. We can make multiple products. We can actually have a hustle thermometer.
Yeah,
there you go.
Hey, there
Turn
you go.
Up. How hard are you hustling? No, you have a temperature. Go to bed.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so lay it out for me. You talked about this journey of hustle. uh, what's the greatest lesson you've learned that you want to, to give to our listeners that are entrepreneurs out there? Because they see your hat, they see this. Am I hustling hard enough? Am I hustling enough? I'm so exhausted. What do I have to do to hustle? What do I need to do to create success or just happiness? I think is what people are really, really looking for.
Right.
But,
yeah, I agree.
What
A lot of people are looking for happiness, and that's where I think being intentional with what you're doing really makes the difference. Because, for example, right now I've got on my schedule here in the next 2.5 hours, I'm not working because I'm riding my bicycle up to school to pick up my daughter and ride bikes home with her. That then energizes me to work for the last hour and a half. You've got to be able to find something that fulfills you outside of the work, outside of the hustle, something that you don't get yourself burnt out on it. But when you are there, you are focused, you're intentional with your time. I know I've said intentional probably 20 times now, but it really is something that you need to focus on if you want to be able to find that balance. And I think balance isn't a fair word, because sometimes you're going to have deadlines that you're going to have to stay up late. You're going to have to, you're going to have the family things take a step back temporarily and then come back to it. I mean, with me, I've got sacred hours between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. where I'm focused on my family, and, we're having dinner together. I'm taking care of all their activities that they have to do. And then at 8 p.m., I can go back to work and I can put in however many hours I need to. But again, it's finding that intention.
Yeah, I've heard it's not balance, it's harmony.
Yeah, exactly.
And harmony, where you find harmony can change over time. Yep. We talked about moving the hustle meter. So it's, where are you at stages in your business? Where do you need to focus? Does your family, does your partner understand where you are at this point in time? Are you communicating that? Is it ebbing and flowing in relationship to what you need it to be intentionally? So that is really powerful. I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. Where can our listeners learn more about you, Mr. Trent? Sir Trent, Hustle Trent.
Yes.
Sir Hustleness.
I haven't heard that one before. So I am most active on Instagram. I know we're on LinkedIn Live. I am trying to be more active on LinkedIn, but I am Trent V. Bray here on LinkedIn, or also on Instagram, Trent V. Bray. That's where I tend to spend most of my time. And then my company's called Hustle Energy, and that's, you can find that on all the different networks. And then you can listen to the podcast with Ben over here. It's on that podcast. It's called Hustle the Day, and that's actually something I'm transitioning away from here in the next few weeks.
I made it on one of the last episodes.
You made it on. I think you're 98, and I went to 100. So you're right there. Got to end on a high note.
Just end at 98. They don't need the other two.
No.
Okay, awesome. Everyone check out Trent, our Sir Hustleness. Add him on Instagram. Check out his products. Follow his journey. And if you need some tips as an entrepreneur, reach out to him personally. Have a conversation. He's an incredible individual. I'm happy to know him. So thank you for your time today, Trent.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. I really appreciate it. And like you said, reach out. I'm happy to give some of my time to help other people, on their journey.
And maybe you can teach me how to grow it a little longer. So
it's a little shaggy. I couldn't get into my barber recently. He booked out too far, and I missed my time where it's like, all right, it's a little shaggy, but
it must help on the house flipping now, though. I feel like if you came up in a house flip, I'd be like, this guy looks like he knows how to fix things.
There's an interesting dynamic of people with beards that, for whatever reason, they're like, yeah, I like this guy. He can grow a beard. It's like,
give him a hatchet and a tool belt, and we're good.
Exactly.